Hi, I'm Greg from Terriginous, and I'm going to teach you Afterlife by Dream Theater from their first record. So this is, I think, maybe a fan favorite. This one has a little more live footage than some of the other ones, but I still use the same ones. This one is just really sweet tune. There's a lot of really cool stuff in here. We're just starting off right off the bat with Petrucci's 16th notes, likes to double on different strings. Yet again, if you're not good at it by now, I won't say you'll never get good at it. Just keep working at it. You got this. So that first riff, by the way, this is one of the very, very extremely few times that you will hear a not quite perfectly tight Dream Theater part. So to me, it just adds a little charm, but yeah, of all the records they've ever done, just on the first record, those 16th, they're not quite on, and it's only for half a second if you catch it. So anyway, this first riff, just this nice C-sharp Phrygian riff, all based comfortably in 4th position. The intro of the song kind of starts with like a long form version of it, but there's nothing crazy about this if you've got that picking down. That repeats 3 times, and here's where you really got to watch out, because the endings of this riff, there are a couple different endings of this riff. The first one, so after you've played that intro 4 times and you get to the first 2 measures only, and then getting to this next one. So a pretty simple riff taken by itself, but in context it's a little strange. There's also a slight accelerando here in the song. Probably not on purpose, because I think I've mentioned before, I'm 99% sure this record was not done to a metronome. Still amazing. So that 4th ending. And that 4th ending most of those power chords are on upbeats until the last 2. But a pretty straightforward power chord riff nonetheless. So here's the 4th time of the intro. Then you're really going back to the same riff, but it's a short form of it. You're going to play the exact same thing 3 times, just the first 2 measures. So then you get to an ending that does happen one other time in the song, but watch out here. You really have to, the 5/4 measure is an issue, but watch out, because this is also hard to pick out on the record. This B to A pull off, and he hits, initially he hits a little artificial harmonic on the first one. So you get that kind of neat, decaying artificial harmonic sound with the pull-offs. 1 beat rest to just give you a breather right before what I'm calling the pre-verse. So the pre-verse is pretty straightforward thing. We got some kind of typical Petrucci chords. We've got C minor 7, 2/4-2 with the open E and B on top. A lot of times I might play this with ring, pointer, pinky, but here I'm going to use middle, pointer, ring, because of the chord that's coming up. So now you're hitting B add 11. So that's just your standard B chord with the open E on top. Sometimes I'll play this pointer on B, ring finger mashing on those 3 strings for your 5th, root, and 3rd. If you got a nice bendy ring finger, you can do that and get it out of the way. Or if you've got skinny enough fingers, mine are kind of pushing it, you can do it just with this stretch with 3 individual fingers here. Because of the chord we just came from, I get to keep ring finger in the same place. Back to C minor 7. Just watch out for riffs like this for the particular rhythm, because the whole band is matching that, and there are drum fills that go along with it. So it's pretty cool. So and then after you get to that, watch out for your 2 beats of 16ths in measure. What is that in measure 16? Then we got G sharp minor 7. And a little kind of rhythmic unison to go into the verse. taka-dun, dun, taka-dun, taka-dun. And that leads you into the verse. So it's not too crazy riff. Those chords are pretty hard to pick out, but there's some good live footage of this one where you can clearly see the B at 11 especially. So in the verse, however, it gets a little harder to hear some things. And the keyboard is doing some chords that the guitar is not doing. And that's what makes this a little deceiving to hear. So you may be playing it and be like, that doesn't sound quite right. It's because the guitar part is missing an important note. I'll show you what that note is, but the guitar is not playing it. So starting right from the beginning of that verse, actually starting from the pickup of the verse, I'm the last C minor 7, right before the verse starts on 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. If you know the song really well, you're probably saying, something's really missing. All the guitar is doing is going between C minor 7 and C minor 9, having the open E and B on top, and then changing that high E by fretting the 4th fret to a D sharp here. So there you have C minor 9. And especially where there's a bigger change is going into measure 25. The keys and everything, and I think the bass as well, are hitting a G sharp. And they're really changing the chord to almost like a variation like in the pre-verse of G minor 7. But the guitar is not doing that. The guitar is just going between, well, scratch that. There are also clean guitars arpeggiated in the back, I believe, of the verse. But again, I'm ignoring that. If you missed the Fortune and Lies video, all these songs are written and I'm teaching them all to be played by one guitar. So you can just sit down, play along with the record, or join your own Dream Theater cover band or whatever. So playing the first record, which would be awesome. It's just a fantastic record. Charlie Dominici's singing on it is just incredible. But enough about my love for this album. Continuing. So in the verse, C minor 7, C minor 9. Those extra chords are not in there until we get closer to the end of the verse, where we're going to play this extended E power chord with B on the bottom. Followed by an A sus2. Now, John Petrucci loves all the different ways to play sus2 chords, but because his hand is already here, he's doubling the open B on the G string for the A sus2 chord. So here's our whole verse, starting from the pickup. 3. Notice we got a little bit of da-da-da-da. We got a little bit of a rhythmic break here on the A sus2. And then we have this like little mini short solo at the end of the first verse. So it's a little hard to discern what's whammy bar and what's sliding. If you're listening really carefully, most of it is actually sliding. So that is actually a really nice crisp slide from 7th fret to 11. Then we got this descending bit. So that you can do all with first finger. It requires a little bit of practice to make sure that you're like kind of sliding accurately here, but I'll do that part again. So we're starting on. And then middle finger's in the perfect place to do this bend on 8th fret. A little B arpeggio. And then there's no artificial harmonic on that. So, and now here, sliding with, letting index finger do a lot of work here. Basically, he's just going, hot cross buns, a classic, but instead of just doing those individual notes, he's sliding just a little, very quick 16th up and down. Then, I've got a little pull off in parentheses. He's got to move his hand off of that. It's probably not on purpose, so don't worry about it. And then there is an artificial harmonic on this one. It's an F sharp. I have talked about this in previous tunes. If you're looking for a specific artificial harmonic, just be comfortable with where that is on your guitar with the right hand. So on this guitar, that F sharp on 4th fret here. that F sharp is going to be most of the way toward my bridge pickup. So I do have to make a little bit of adjustment to get the right one. And then a big old whammy bar dive. Then you're doing, he does a lick really similar to this later, but just kind of continuing. And this is all, by the way, in C sharp minor, just playing up and down the neck. So this is definitely whammy bar vibrato. He's sliding up and off of it. A little lick, 11, 12, 14, pull off to open. So after you do this lick, 11, 12, 14, D sharp, E, F sharp, then quickly rearrange your hand to 14th position. Ring finger lands nicely on 16. Half step up and down, bend, pull off. Also very melodic and singable. I'm not going to talk too much about the rhythm here because I think it stands out nicely. So you should be able to hum it at a slower. The thing that's snuck in there is that extra E. You might think but it's a very John Petrucci thing to do, to have like kind of sensible normal phrase and let me just squeeze 2 extra notes in there. Again, after you do this pull off bit, make sure you've positioned your hand in 14th position. Everything's nice and friendly there. And if you did watch the Light Fuse and Getaway video, this next technique you'll already know. Like I said, very, very like 80s whammy technique, high distortion kind of deal where you're going to depress that whammy bar a whole lot and you're going to flick a string, third string in this case, with index finger, while ring finger is on top of the proper fret for the artificial harmonic. So the thing here is we are going to be very specific about the pitch here. On 4th fret of the G string, that's going to be a B. If you know about pure tunings, it's a little flat compared to the equal temperament tuning, but that's not going to matter because we're using whammy bar. And as I mentioned, the song's in C sharp minor. We're pulling that B up to a C sharp. If this sound is very, very familiar and you're a big Dream Theater fan, he does the exact same thing at the end of a solo for Under a Glass Moon. You need a floating tremolo to do that, of course, because we are pulling it back up the whole step. It could be a higher order harmonic, in which case you're not going to pull it as far, but it's funny because when you do the correct harmonic, it sort of will feel right and it'll be easier to get the pitch that he's got. So one last time, depress the whammy bar, flick with index finger, ring finger's right there to catch the harmonic. I'm also muting all the other strings with my other fingers too, so as I move the whammy bar, it doesn't cause any issues. So that's the end of our short solo. We're going to repeat back to the verse. However, I've written this, I have arranged this to be played on one guitar. As I said, that note's going to last a little bit over the first measure of the solo. So you notice the repeat symbol goes back to the second measure of the solo. He's already started singing, so we're going to... We don't have the 2 measures on C minor 7 like we did before, only 1 measure. Now we get to the second ending where our rhythm on the A sus2 is pretty much the same, but we don't have to end it as early because we don't have to get to that lead. Da 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 da. 1 and 4. And then we are back on that intro riff again with yet a different unique ending. So it's 3 times the normal one. But then our ending here, just down the C sharp minor scale. Or E major scale, which is the same thing. To make it sound really nice and tight, make sure that you feel your groups of 16th notes and all your note changes here, if you're paying attention to the rhythm, all your note changes are on downstrokes. Some are on upbeats, but again, those are on ands when we're doing 16ths, 1, E, and anything on a downbeat or an upbeat or an and is going to be a down pick. Right, now we're on verse 3. So you're like, oh, what's the big deal? We're on another verse, right? pay attention, because now instead of doing that gallop rhythm, the 8th and 2/16 that we did in the first measure, in the first verse, and second verse, now for verse 3 and verse 4, which is coming up in a minute, we're doing 16th notes, 4 straight 16ths there. Excuse me. The chord progression is exactly the same, but one other thing to watch out for. There is one extra hit here. It's really important because Portnoy is doing that too. I think he's hitting that on the snare. The whole band kind of da-da doing that extra hit in the 1, 2, 3, 4th measure of verse 3. So I'll play it kind of slow. That's what you got to watch out for. Everything else is identical to before, except verse 3 has this really cool fill in there. So halfway through, that chord that really sounds like it's missing, where the band is hitting the G sharp in the bottom of the chord, but we're still just hitting C minor, C sharp minor 9. We've got this run. It's really just a hand-friendly C sharp minor thing. And it comes on beat 3. So keep in mind here, a lot of downstrokes, all downstrokes for the string changes. It's a little tricky though to do 2 notes on a string. We've been doing that with, but now we're changing notes. But it's not crazy fast. It's quick, but it's not like brutally fast. So in context, I'll do the whole verse 3. And finally, what we've all been waiting for, the lead into the chorus. So the end of that verse, we've got those A sus2s again. On the record, there's a little lead melody here. But Petrucci probably felt it didn't really add anything, so he doesn't do that live, at least in 2004. So I just have you playing power chords. The last one being an A sus2, but on the record, that's definitely an extra clean electric hitting that. But I was doing before as just 3 power chords. And it kind of falls flat when you're playing along with the record, so I'm putting the A sus2 there. Then the next part, which, if you know the song, this melody is totally with you, but watch out, because when this melody comes back, sometimes it has an extra note and sometimes it doesn't. This, of course, is from that verse melody, the chorus melody. They have no night in me, right? Will the day, notice there's 2 extra notes in the speaking part, in the lyrics sometimes, or the vocal melody, but at least right here, you're starting on the D. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, and then we're on the chorus. Maybe the sweetest chorus on the record, but there's a ton of good stuff. So, so here, starting on the chorus, I'm actually going to start on the pickup to it, because this is one of those parts where all of our accents, all of our major chord changes are on 4 and instead of the instead of the downbeat. It's always on the end of the previous measure. So we're going to start off with just kind of like nice rockin', down picky power metal 8th note kind of thing. 1, 2, 3. I'll start from the lick before. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first 4 measures of the chorus basically have this nice little melody going on and a descending bass line. F sharp to E sharp. Why am I calling it E sharp? Because we're in F sharp minor. E sharp is the sharp 7, so that gives us the F sharp harmonic minor. So that's what we got so far. Next is an E. So Petrucci's hitting his open E to reinforce his 7th fret power chord. Nice little melody there with octaves. Then he's playing 2 different forms of a B major chord. He's got the D sharp in the bass at first, doing one of these minor 6 deals, but really the root is that note. And then he's finishing off by hitting the B on the bottom, which of course makes sense. Then we're doing that lick again, but it's got the one extra note beforehand. Other than that, it's the same exact lick. So here's the first half of your chorus. You might also notice I'm always sliding back to index finger to start the chorus. That's always putting me, after I do that lick, that's putting me in the right position to continue it. The second half of the chorus, here we go yet again. We got our double 16th notes. Although he doesn't do it on every single one, it's possibly kind of missed one, but I don't think so. It sounds maybe intentional because it pops out a certain way. That's only for the first half. Then for the second half, he's hitting it as power chords. It's nice to kind of have it changed up like that. Now when he changes to the E sharp on the bottom, he's hitting them as chords. He gets back to his E power chord, and now he's abandoning the 16ths to go for regular 8th notes. And that accent structure should be pretty easy to feel. I'll start from that. This is the pickup to measure 73. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of a very popular accent structure to have. It's like having some groups of having some groups of 3 and kind of justified to the beat with a group of 2 now and again. Then we have that same lick yet again, but with another note beforehand. So we have that same lick yet again, it's just a tiny bit different, starting on the upbeat of 3 now, so it's 2 extra notes in the beginning, and then a longer riff to lead you back to the C sharp. 1 and 2 and 3. Also, we got some partial artificial harmonics here, just to kind of make it exciting and cool sounding. I'm not going to be specific about which ones because they're not total harmonics. Just do the artificial harmonic thing, glance the string, and it'll just end up sounding cool if you've got a decent amount of distortion. 1, 2, 3. Now we are back to that intro riff yet again, played 3 times, and we're doing that kind of rare, weird ending. So it's exactly like that was partway through the intro. It's exactly the same riff, even with the little artificial harmonic on B and with the pull off to follow. Then we are on verse 4. Verse 4 is identical to verse 3. It just doesn't have that. It doesn't have the meow mix fill. So verse 4 is exactly the same. I'm not going to go over it. At the end of verse 4, dies al coda, dal segno. The segno is the line right before the chorus. So that's going to be all exactly the same. You're going to play chorus 2 exactly the way you played chorus 1 until finally you look at measure 74, or actually 73 to 74. At the end of 74, you're going to jump to the coda. You do sort of artificial harmonics here again. Just finally ending on the C sharp, a little break, and then we got some more Holdsworth light chords, right? Nothing too bad here. Technically, an A major 13 chord with C sharp in the bass, if you want to call it that, because we got the major 7, we got the 13, we got the major 3rd, and so forth. So, but in any event, middle finger on the root, on the low note, not the root here if I want to be music theory strict. I'm really just making a power chord with middle and pinky. My pointer finger is doing a bar, and because this is a bit of a serious stretch, I'm using the side of my pointer finger, slanting my hand a little bit to do it. That makes this stretch a lot easier. And then finally, when this stuff's in place, ring finger can sneak in where it goes on the 5th fret. So this is very much a chord to form as you go. Also, if you know the record pretty well, you notice there's going to be something missing here. There's an extra keyboard chord that hits after this that the guitar is not doing. So the guitar part is... For the next chord, you're just dropping the lowest note a whole step. Now, you've done all the work to grab this chord, so just slide it up to middle finger being on 11th fret. You're doing the exact same thing up there. So once you've got that first chord grabbed, this shouldn't be too hard. Then we're going to go into the solo, but you can sort of think of this first part as like pre-solo or like the chill part of the solo before it really heats up. So just kind of some easy whammy bar stuff going on here. Watch for the timing, but he does it a little bit free. So we got basically stuff that makes sense in these positions. 4th fret with index finger. Depress the whammy bar right before you hit it. And then slide with middle finger to 7 in the 3rd measure. So pointer finger's there for the bar. Of course, that jagged vibrato is my notation for whammy bar vibrato. So again, keep it kind of free. If you want to be strict about the rhythm on that measure, 1, 2, and everything's on ands after the first note. And the last part, low F sharp, and then you're going to do B sus2 to B, or B sus4 to B. You also notice I have a E in parentheses there. I think that just probably happened as he moved his hand off the low F sharp. But that's the chill part of the solo. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Now we get to the fun part. Starting with pickup, F sharp to B, and then bending up to C sharp. I'm just doing it right there. And moving my hand for the next bit. A lot of times when you hear a 4th, like F sharp to B, that's a lot of times my clue to be like, well, if they're not ringing over each other at all, or there's even a bend on one of them, it's probably not barred. And if it's not barred and it's a 4th, there's a good chance it's on these 2 strings. That's one of the clues as to where you can play certain things on guitar, what kind of can lead you into it. So then zoom your hand up to 16th fret. So it's a slide from 11 to 16, but I believe he picks the 16 again. And we've got triplets after that. Triplet, triplet. It's a pretty cool lick. Just really based on like an E power chord. You're gonna fret 19th fret and then bend 17 to go to the same note. Pretty straightforward there, if not a little bit quick. Then the next lick is... the next lick is really cool. It's not as hard as it seems rhythmically. And if you've got like kind of good placement of your hand after the open strings, this lick is pretty doable. So you're gonna go... So 12, 10, 9, open. Oh, this is all just diatonic to C sharp minor too. And think of them as 3-note groups, like we talked about in the last tune and in some of that. So, and then we got the next 3-note group is the stretchy group. So 2 whole steps, 5, 7, 9. The first note is always a little long, and then the pull-offs are like quick. And then your third group is 7, 5, 4. So we got... And that open string is always giving you time to kind of like prepare, and the pull-offs and everything are giving you time. And then we've got this last lick. Even though it goes over the measure, don't even pay attention to that measure break because these notes are just kind of like squished in there. Don't take this rhythm super seriously because it's kind of easy to feel in terms of just like slow and fast notes. Now you got down a portion of the C sharp minor scale. Right, then we're going to jump way up. So another pretty straightforward lick. Some of these are partial harmonic or like partial artificial harmonics. I didn't bother writing that here, but this one is. So all very comfortably in 16th position. Sliding down to 15 and back to 16. So that part shouldn't be too hard. And again, we're kind of just dealing with like slow and fast notes. Long, important notes, very quick notes to get you to the next one. Now this next one, you're going to do this sort of lick as a preparation into the next idea. You'll notice that I gave it an approximate timing. He's just squeezing a lot of notes in the timing here, but we got this 1917, 1919 bend part, this F sharp and E bit. And right after you do that bend, reposition your hand. Now once your hand's in the right position, this lick isn't so hard. What we've got here is 14, 16, 19. And we're actually just playing a portion of the C sharp minor pentatonic scale. He's not hammering on, pulling off every note, but he's somewhat picking sporadically. I have it kind of idealized as he's picking 14 and 16. And it'll just kind of feel right doing that. You can economy pick this, do it however you want, because the idea here is we just want to squeeze in a lot of notes here. So I have them as groups of 7 because it's a 7-note phrase. So, and that kind of makes sense on it. Just watch out because he doesn't always do the same thing. In the second measure of this, instead of reaching up, I didn't go over the fingers, but you can probably see it. Pointer finger on 14, so the normal form, pointer finger on 14, middle on 16, pinky on 19. Now your ring finger is hanging out and can easily go to 17 on the second string. He's got a really similar lick in Glass Prison, actually. What is it? I don't know if I remember off the top of my head. Oh, it's the same exact lick, but it's E minor, so he's got E, the ring finger still the same way, but instead of G sharp here, he's got a G natural in Glass Prison. And he picks every note there. That's for sure. You can hear the sound of his pick. But anyway, at some point in the second measure, he changes the high note. Instead of going all the way up to 19, he goes up to 17. And that is for only one of the groups. So he's doing that for a bit. He's basically doing that fast lick. He kind of ends with a little variation on it. But this is probably just him not ending up going to the high note anymore, just kind of not making it because he's squished so many notes in here. So again, like we've seen with a lot of things, this is the idea of what he's doing. Play those notes as fast as possible, and then when it's time, move on to the next part. When is it time? So you're going to do this for 2 measures. And then after that, the 11 is probably just, he's sliding his hand down, ends up hitting 11, but it's not musically important. But he's actually, I'm sure he's using ring finger to go back to the 14. We had that crazy lick. He's got slides down from 14 or wherever, but the important thing is ring finger gets back on 14. And you'll notice this bend in measure 120. And then we do this really cool arpeggio bit. So pointer finger lands on 12. Slides down to 9. This is actually going to work out to be pretty hand friendly. So bend on 14, pointer finger, slide down, and then ring finger lands on 11. And then that makes sense because then the 9 slides to 8. That 8 is maybe not hit twice on purpose, but you're doing this nice G sharp minor arpeggio. And then pinky lands on 11 to finish that arpeggio. Middle finger lands on 9, slide to 7. Then pointer finger lands neatly on 6. Middle finger lands on 7. And then he's sliding to get to 4 and finally finish this basically G sharp minor arpeggio lick. So I switched fingers at the last moment, but it doesn't really matter when you hit that last note. So it's such a cool lick. I did it fast. Let me do it for you slow. I'm also playing it a little more evenly than he's got it. So, and that's when it comes to a big major lick like this, with some like sweep picking and things like that, I would just try to get it slow and even, because you might find, and you find this with Marty Friedman solos a lot, that you might be like, oh, he's got like such a weird kind of not quite triplet sound here. But if your left hand is doing the right notes in the right order in the right place, sometimes the timing works out. Like your hand might actually really like going, so those three notes might end up being faster, just like they are on the actual lick. So I'll do it one more time, slow. Then the next lick, you've got just moving fifths around, very similar to the solo that he does in Status Seeker. So the tab can kind of make you go cross-eyed, especially if you start like connecting notes that shouldn't be connected. Just look at the power chords of it. What also makes this a little bit difficult timing-wise, there are two note power chords we're arpeggiating, but in triplets. So just pay attention to where your power chords are, like two notes at a time. Of course, the power chord changes when you get to first string, but it made sense with fingering. You did a proper power chord on the second and third string for the stretch, and then he keeps it the same. So the thing to watch out for here is that you're almost always changing strings, except for the second and third power chord are on the same string. And that's actually nice to practice its own phrase, because now you can feel the 2 against 3. 3 power chords are going to be 6 notes, which works nicely into the triplets. So if you can feel that do-da, do-da, do-da as triplets, then you've kind of got the assignment. Right? And then the second measure of that, it almost sounds to my ears like he wanted to hit another power chord, maybe ran out of time. So he kind of doesn't finish what I think was probably meant to be a 10th fret power chord, but he doesn't get to it. So instead he jumps from 7 all the way to 12 and then does that neat little slide up to 14. So that lick. And that leads you into the next part. Now, you have just enough time when you get to the end of that lick to flick your pickup to the neck pickup, and then you got the next lick. So this is another one of those, you'll see all my tremolo picking marks, picking right hand faster than anything else, but he's got a total method to his madness here. I am not going to be strict about my tab. If you wanted to, like, the tab is very, very close to what he's doing, as close as I could possibly get it. But again, I just want to show you more the idea of what's going on here. He's going up the C sharp minor scale. We're still in C sharp minor, right? So there's a little chromatic bit at the first of it in the pickup into the measure. But mostly he's kind of going up and back down and up and back down. And that's kind of the idea of what he's doing, right? Minus my hitting the wrong string for a second. So kind of ignoring the tab and thinking more theory-wise, if we want to put that neat little chromatic he's got in the beginning, might be a slide, so it may have been a mistake, but it sounds pretty cool. 9, 10, 11. But essentially what you want to do is you're doing 2-note groups in bigger groups of 3. So that's your first one. And of course, always an open E in between to give him time to move his hand. And of course, E is the third of C sharp minor, so it's going to sound cool with what's going on here theory-wise. So, but the C sharp minor scale, starting on C sharp here, all 7 notes of the scale right there. I'll go by tab number, and we'll go by groups here. The 10 is chromatic, but 9, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12, 14. That's your first like ascending group in this shreddy bit. Your next ascending group starts one group higher than the last one did, if that makes sense. 11, 12, 12, 14, 14, 16. And then you're going to keep up that same idea. If you know the whole C sharp minor scale, it's more intuitive than staring at tab numbers and going blind. Here's your C sharp minor scale. It's got 4 sharps just like the E major scale, but I'm not going to go over the note names. I'm going to give you tab. So 9, 11, 12, 14, 16, 17, 19. Now just keep that up where you're playing 3 groups, move down a group, and then 3 more groups. And then at the very end of the measure, it's almost like he got there and he's like, well, I know I want to keep my hand here, but I've got to finish this measure somehow. So he's just noodling on. And you even see the open E's at the end of it. And I have a theory for that, which I'll get to in a second. But I'm just now noodling with 19, 17, 16, and including the 19 on the second string as well. Just, again, just fitting measures into 4 beats, or fitting notes into 4 beats. Now the open E, I'm 99% sure, gives him time to move his hand for the next part. He doesn't have to move very far, but that kind of makes sense. Because now we are on the harmony with the keys. So I'm going to tell you how Petrucci does it. I'm going to tell you how I do it. So this is another great example of where I like to do the Marty Friedman picking. I'm upstroking my initial notes for these arpeggios. But I know for a fact Petrucci doesn't do that. He does proper alternate picking here. He goes down and then whiffs the string for the pull-off. He may even be going for the string, but it's much better to just get a nice clean pull-off than to upstroke the string and then maybe get the second string or maybe like foul it up a little bit. Pretty sure it's actually a pull-off. Though if you watch his hand, his right hand is really efficient. This, to me, makes things a little bit difficult because this means that you have to upstroke when you switch back to the B string, or when you switch back to the E string. Down, up, down, come around and do an up. This speed isn't prohibitive to do that, but I feel like it's extra work. If you want to do Marty Friedman style, it's upstroke, pull off, down, down. So much less taxing for the right hand. Now, you'll also notice that, so this is an F sharp chord going on here. This is basically the chord progression of the chorus that the harmony, that the keys and guitar, or it is the chord progression of the chorus that the keys and guitar are harmonizing over. So we're starting with F sharp minor, and we have that like one little change in note there too. Da, 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 ba, da. In order to not let these ring over, I'm actually using a little bit on my right hand. I'm just crowding the B string when I hit the E string. Just the littlest touch on that is going to kill it and not let it ring over. That makes it easy because then otherwise I'd have to do like some weird rolling with my index finger and that would make things a lot harder than they need to be. Next shape is just a C sharp major chord. And it's the same exact idea, same exact pattern. Marty Friedman picking it makes it nice and easy. The next one is an E major. Speaking of Marty Friedman, this is actually really similar to the chord progression of Tornado of Souls, but we're in F sharp minor instead of in B minor. Also very similar in a different to Hotel California. What makes them so similar is that chromatic bit in there. I didn't talk about that in the chorus so much, but you'll notice in the chorus we got... When you hit the B chord, the D sharp is in there, so it's... That little chromatic line pulls those chords together really quite nicely. And at the same time, you run into things like, oh, it's actually F sharp harmonic minor, oh, it's F sharp natural minor, and now it's F sharp Dorian. So you can analyze it a bunch of different ways as you go from one chord to the next. But anyway, where are we? We are on the E chord. Right, and then next is your B chord. Now he ends this measure with an eighth note. Gives him just enough time to move his hand. Now this part I'm absolutely going to alternate pick, because if I don't, if I economy pick this, I mean I can probably get away with it, but alternate picking it at this kind of speed where it's not crazy fast, but it's pretty quick, alternate picking makes sure that your timing is really nice and solid. A quick note about this, in the other songs I've mentioned that when you have two whole steps in a row on one string in a scale pattern, I almost always use my ring finger. There's not right or wrong to this. A lot of guitar players, with the way they hold their hand, they're like middle finger there. I'll almost always use ring finger, unless this is the exception. And if you're like me, where you like using ring finger better, consider this. In this little bit, so I'm playing the beginning of measure 135, because my pattern on this string is 13, 15, 19, 15, 17, 19. But my pattern on the next string is 16, 17, 19, where I absolutely, without a doubt, want to use pointer, middle, pinky. It's much less of a change to do middle finger on the middle note of these two whole steps, then have my hand basically already ready for the next part. But if you're also like me, the last four notes you may actually go back and do my, I go back and do my usual with ring finger in the middle. Oh, not that time. Yep, that's more like it. And that guides you into the next part. Now the next part is actually pretty much the same chord progression, but just a higher inversion of it. So we are up on F sharp minor again, this time 21, 17, 19. And we've got that alternating note on top for the second measure too. Then now I'm hearing on this next one when we're doing the C sharp major, I'm hearing the notes go up and down in the alternate part. Then we get to our E arpeggio again, but here's where the Marty Friedman picking really helps out, because they change the pattern up just for this. Just in that first measure of the E major chord, and I believe that's measure 140. Yep, so it's... Now this is easy. If you're used to doing the upstroke followed by the pull-off, you just got to do 2 in a row to change up the pattern. And of course, this is right out of Tornado of Souls. And then still alternating the top note. Everything's pretty normal there. And then you got your end of it. Your B major chord. So the pattern is a little bit different here because of your ending note. To land on that D, finally you're ending on that same lick we had in the beginning of the chorus, just 2 octaves higher. But since we're coming out of lead, we're doing it way up here. I'm also going to hold that note for the first measure of the chorus. Gives me plenty of time to now flick my switch back to the neck bridge position. Actually, first measure and a half, which is the whole first chord change. So the whole F sharp minor part of the F sharp power chord here, you're not playing at all. You're just holding that high F sharp. Then we're coming in in the beginning of the end of the third measure, which is and the rest of it is the same, nearly the same as chorus 1 and 2. Now instead of will the day have no night, instead of will the day have no night, now we're changing it up a little bit because the drum part changes. So now we're just doing straight power chords. To lead you into the second half of the last chorus, which is a lot different. So one more time from the B. Now once you're here, you got a pretty straightforward power metal-y kind of part. So remember, we hit the F sharp power chord on the upbeat of the last measure, and then going into 152, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just a nice little kind of like egging you on back into the F sharp power chord. The open A's are what tells me he's probably playing the next chord down here and not over here, because that gives his hand time to move. All that is very similar to the groove from before, it's just with 16th notes in between. So one more time, I'll do the second half of the chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then ending with that same lick from before, we're just going to mute it a little more. And then our outro. And of course it stops dead, and then you get the storm at the beginning of the ones who helped to set the sun. So I'm sure that's just like an edit on the record, although I always like to try to get it just as tight as how the record sounds, because I think it's a pretty cool ending to just stop dead in there like that. So that is all of Afterlife by Dream Theater. Stick around for the last 2 tracks.